graders. Today's lesson for math is going to review, all right, test 3. All right, as all of you know, the 5th graders over the course of the last few months have taken several different 10-point question tests where we were working on the skill of turning fractions into decimals, decimals into fractions, vice versa, and getting lots of practice on that so we know what we're doing and we're doing good. All right, so what we're going to do here today is we're going to review. You have all actually already taken this test, but we're going to review through each of the 10 problems, and we want you to watch the video so that this is good practice when you are asked to take test 4, and then eventually down the road we'll be asking you to take test 5 also. All right, so we're going to work through each problem, and we're going to go through, like we've talked about a lot, there's often more than one way to solve a math problem, so we'll talk about a few different ways to solve each one. All right, the first one, all right, the 5th grade teachers were discussing 3/4. That is really one that we would like you to memorize. All right, if you don't know that one, put it in your mind and memorize it. All the fourths are ones that you should memorize. And I know that my class has talked about this. I think I've heard other classes talking about this. When you are talking about the fourths, one way to think about it is in terms of money. All right, so if you have 4 quarters, you have $1. All right, if you have 1 quarter, how much money do you have?
25 cents.
All right, if you have 1 quarter, you have 25 cents. 1 out of 4 quarters, all right, would be 0.25. If you have 2 quarters out of 4, or 1/2 of $1, what's that as a decimal?
50 cents.
50 cents. And if you have 3 quarters out of 4 quarters, how much money do you have?
75
You
cents.
have 75 cents. All right, and so therefore, if we look at our answer choices, all right, 3/4 is equivalent to 75 hundredths. All right, letter A, 0.75, all right, would be the correct answer. Now, another way you can do this is you can always change a fraction into a decimal by taking the top number and dividing it by the bottom number. So I can take 3 and I can divide it by 4. All right, now we've talked a lot about if you don't see a decimal in the number, it always goes after it. I can put a decimal point here and add zeros after it without changing the value of the number. All right, 4 doesn't go into 3, so I can put my 0 in, and if you want to put your decimal point straight up, that's how we place decimal points when we're dividing with decimals. How many times does 4 go into 30?
7 times.
7 times 4 is?
28.
28. We have to borrow here. How much is 10 minus 8? 2. Now, when I get down here, I know I have to keep going because this number is not 0. You have to keep dividing it out until you get to a 0 here. So I'm going to add on another 0 here because 0 is the only number we can add without changing the value of it. And I'm going to bring this 0 down. Now I can divide. How many times does 4 go into 20?
5.
Goes in there 5 times. 5 times 4 is?
20.
And 20 minus 20 is?
0.
All right, now we know we're done because our remainder down here is 0. And look at that. We got the same answer, 75 hundredths. All right, now I'm going to talk about one more way to do this. Oftentimes, if you can make your denominator have either like 10 on the bottom or 100 on the bottom, you can solve this also. So if our fraction is 3/4, what could we multiply 3/4 by, all right, to get 100 on the bottom?
25.
25. 4 times 25 equals 100. And if I multiply the bottom number by 25, I have to multiply the top number by 25. What is 3 times 25?
75.
75. Now we're saying 3/4 is equivalent to 75 hundredths. How do you write 75 hundredths as a decimal?
0.75.
You write that as 0.75. All right, so that's a third way to solve that problem. All right, so like we said, all right, often more than one way to solve a math problem. All right, question number 2. All right, write 7/8 as a decimal number. All right, well, when I do this one, I know I can take the fraction 7/8 and take my top number and divide it by my bottom number. That's how I'm going to do this problem. I'm going to take 7 and I'm going to divide it by 8. It's always the top number divided by the bottom number. So here's where I add my decimal point in, and I can add 1 0 at a time. I can keep adding zeros here until I get to 0 for my remainder down here. 8 does not go into 7, so I'm going to put my 0 up, and then I'm also going to put my decimal point up right away. How many times does 8 go into 70?
8.
8 times 8 is 64. I'm gonna borrow, how much is 10 minus 4?
6.
Alright, I don't have 0 there, so I need to keep going. I'm gonna add a 0 here and bring it down. That doesn't change the value. How many times does 8 go into 60? 7 times 8 is 56. I need to borrow again. How much is 10 minus 6?
4.
Alright, again, I don't have a 0 down there, so I need to keep going. So I add this 0 and I bring it down. How many times does 8 go into 40?
5.
5 times. What is 5 times 8?
40.
And what is 40 minus 40?
0.
Alright, because I have a 0 there, I know I am finished. Alright, and that is my final answer. So as a fraction, 7/8 is equivalent to the decimal 0.875, 875 thousandths. Alright, so come over here, look at our answer choices, and that's letter D, 875 thousandths. In our next example, we are comparing using less than, greater than, or equal to. Alright, now, what kind of fractions are these when we have 12 over 6 or 8 over 4? What do we call those?
Improper.
They're improper fractions because your top number is larger than your bottom number. So we are either going to change those improper fractions into whole numbers or into mixed numerals. Alright, so what do I get when I take 12? Remember, this symbol right here means what?
Divide.
It means to divide. What do I get when I take 12 divided by 6?
2.
We get 2. What do I get when I take 8 divided by 4?
2.
We get 2. Now we can easily compare those whole numbers. Alright, what would you say? Less than, greater than, or equal to?
They're equal.
2 is equal to 2. Alright, so if it's an improper fraction, change, if it divides out to a whole number, change it to a whole number, or it might come out to a mixed number where you have the whole number with your fraction. Alright, so we said equal to, that is letter C. In our next problem, we have to order the decimals, the fractions, the improper fractions, or mixed numbers from greatest to least. Alright, so in the number 1 spot, we're going to put our biggest number, and in our number 4 spot, we're going to put our least number. Alright, I'm going to start, what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of put these all in either number, like a whole number, or in a decimal number, and we're going to compare them from there. Alright, so this one is just like that last problem where we've got 12 over 2, that's an improper fraction that we can take by dividing the top number divided by the bottom number. How much is 12 divided by 2?
6.
That is equal to 6. Okay, now we're not going to work this one out. We're going to remember from problem number 1 what the fraction 3/4 is equivalent to.
0.75.
0.75. So we put the whole number on there, that's 5, and then the 3/4 is equal to 0.75. So 5 3/4 is equivalent to the decimal 5 75 hundredths. Okay? The next one, 5.9, that's already in decimal form, so we're just going to leave that one like that, 5.9. And then the last one, we've got 5 4/5. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to change 4/5. Today I'm going to choose to use the method. I noticed that I can make that have a 10 on the bottom. All right, so what would we multiply by to get 10 on the bottom?
2.
If I multiply the bottom number by 2, I have to multiply the top number by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10. How do we write 8/10 as a decimal?
0.8.
We write it as 0.8. So we come back over to our problem, and it's 5 4/5. So the 5 goes where the whole number is, and then we said 4/5 was equal to 0.8, and so after that I would simply write 8 like that. All right, now we have them all in decimal form. All right, if we want to, we can make them all have the same number of numbers after the decimal point. So I had 2 zeros there, 1 here, and 1 here. Now we can compare. Which one of those is the greatest?
12 over 2. The greatest is
12
this,
over 2. All right, so that's in the right spot. All right, then which of these should go next?
5.9.
5.9. I'm going to move that there. And then which one is the next biggest number?
5 and 8/10.
5 4/5,
4/5.
which is equivalent to 5.80. And then our smallest number would be 5.75, which was 5 3/4. So now that's in the right spot. All right, so we have those in the correct spot, and they are in order from greatest to least. All right, we are gonna stop, all right, with this video for length of time, and we are gonna create another one going over the rest of these test problems. We hope all is well, and again, we want you all to know that we miss you.